theme for the Chromium Fence was that humanity does not shape society, but rather society shapes humanity. And what I meant by that is that we as humans and our conditions as ourselves, we do not create a society based on our human characteristics, but rather someone determines the society, and then the society then defines what human characteristics is. And I think you can see that with the purists and the naturalists, because one party seems to want to get rid of a lot of things that humans have had, all of their history, and it's I'm not sure, like,
it's valid even till today.
yeah, it's valid even till today. I think PKDick was trying to relate it to himself and how he feels different from society, and thus he doesn't feel as human as other people, because it seems like for you to be like a normal person, you have to be conformed to one or another thing, and he just didn't feel like he felt in that block. And I think he was trying to use that with like Walsh, who kind of martyred himself for his own cause, as he said. And for support, I had on page 296 where the robot says, "They're not your ideas, you didn't create them, and what you believe is a reflection of certain social forces and pressures." So it kind of shows you how like people don't make themselves, but society makes them, and that's kind of how I viewed it.
I took a slightly different angle on this piece, and my theme of this was that I thought that basically this is trying to say that no matter what happens, even if we solve all the world's issues, even if we solve everything that's wrong, the people are still going to find complete non-issues to argue over. That there's always going to be warfare and death and destruction, and that it really doesn't have any meaning to it. And I back this up with something also on 296, where Walsh says, "People kill each other over these trifles. It doesn't make sense. There's going to be suicidal civil war if that amendment passes, and I'm supposed to join one side or the other." And so what I thought this was saying is that the conflict here is really completely pointless. They're arguing over sweat glands and body hair, and basically when there's nothing else to be fought over, no real battles, people will still harm each other. People will still find things to fight over, because that's just sort of human nature.
The way I saw a theme in this book was that I feel that people should keep their political views to themselves and keep them like as personal as possible, and then once they do let that out into the public, society can like mess up your entire life because of it. And as the last passage was said, people are killing each other over this, and that's not something that should really be
Do you think that someone should have a political view internally and then a different political view, or maybe an altered one, outside of their own personal life? It's kind of like what Hillary Clinton's vice president, Tim Kaine, he says he's Catholic, so he has his own views on abortion, gay marriage, transgender stuff, all kinds of stuff like that, but like he will support those things even if he doesn't personally agree with them, just because
it's for the greater good.
It's like the way society is progressing. So I mean, should we let society progress itself into something like that, or should we stand up for like what we personally think is the correct decision?
I think that it's
a tough question.
Yeah, it is a tough question, but I think it's not the right answer to simply ignore things going on that you disagree with, but it's also not the answer to start wars and kill people over it. I think the example you used is a lot less because it's moving forward and progressive in the way things is going to go, and I think it's more because it's politically advantageous, and I think we have to separate the motives of a politician trying to get elected from someone in their day-to-day life who holds opinions that they try to live by.
feel like you need to take every thing that happens with like a grain of salt in the bowl, because like I'm Christian, so my belief doesn't or says that gays and abortion are all like should not be happening. You should like take them out of your life completely. But me personally, I have gay friends and they're some of my best friends.
Kind of connecting to what both Nate and TJ's connecting with their themes, I believe that this unconditional duality that's going on throughout this story is necessary, because the purists, they kind of want to get rid of history. The naturalists want to hold on to it. You kind of need this middle ground. And I feel like this story was kind of his way of showing that we need this middle ground, and I viewed it kind of as like a call to action on 296 and 297. He states, but you've got to make a decision. You've got to resolve this conflict and act. You can't remain a spectator. You've got to be a participant. Nobody can be a spectator to life, and this is life. So I viewed that as his call to action for people, and it's his way of telling us to embrace it but not run along with it.
To that point, I would say that while I agree that this duality is always going to exist in society, I think PKDick's point in this, sort of relating to that, is that I think he feels that it's gone too far. I think the overemphasis of the duality and how he's constantly pushing that both sides are going too far over a trivial issue shows that, yes, while there are always going to be dualities and two sides to everything, I think he feels like the middle ground is being too pressured by the opposing sides.
I think it poses a good question kind of related to that, is that kind of like how our society is becoming more polarized and opinionated as time has, passed. It seems like we've gotten more and more one-sided. Will society eventually reach like an ultimatum, kind of like what he presents in this story? Like where we have to make a choice, where the other side will, perish or be forced to join the other side.
Is that an actual question?
It is a question.
Yeah.
If you'd like to answer.
Oh, I wasn't sure.
I don't know, I just kind of viewed it as like, I don't know. I kind of feel that there will just be a permanent, like, unresolved conflict. That there's
It'll
not really
just be-
going to be an end to this.
It's like
It's just the way
If there's an
it's
end,
the way humans are. Like, there's just going to be a permanent unresolved conflict. I personally believe.
yeah, if there's an end, I think that the world would become a utopia, and nobody wants a utopia because then it's a boring life.
So it's like the Pleasantville kind of
Exactly.
effect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, your theme now?
Okay. So, my theme was a little different, and it was just pretty much that society, it suppresses the actual human emotion, and pretty much an individual would be suppressed in society. And the way I would show that is from page 293. And on 293, we have our main character that calls out and says that he's not a naturalist and he's not a purist. And he says, "Do you hear me?" And the line underneath is that nobody hears him. And well, I guess that shows with society that even if you are an individual, most of the time, if you're the odd one out, then nobody would listen to you. And that's, I guess, what I was trying to say.
I think that can relate back to PKDick, because he always seemed like he was different, like he was the odd one out, because he was kind of the kooky guy of society, so he didn't necessarily fit into a certain niche, and maybe he was trying to use this story to kind of, symbolize himself as Welsh, where he has no idea what to do, and he just kind of, he just doesn't want to be a part of the society anymore, because the society that currently is there is not made for him.
To the point you made, I would say that I definitely agree that it's a reflection of PKDick personally, because we've talked about how he has been paranoid, how he feels pressured by everyone. And I think that's definitely shown in Walsh. Walsh feels ignored by the rest of the world. He isn't understood. He brings up things and people just don't listen to him. For example, when he's talking to the robot on page 297, it mentions that the robot, it says, the robot, like everything else in the multifamily unit, was supplied by the controlling institutions of society. The analyst was a creature in the state, a bureaucrat with a desk and job. Its function was to equate people like Don Walsh with the world as it was. So, I think this reflects how PKDick felt that the pressures of the world were out to make him conform, to make him feel like everybody else, and to suppress people who didn't feel that way.
I think we should move on to the next story, which is We Can Remember It For You Wholesale.
So my theme for We Can Remember It For You Wholesale is the relationship between memory and reality can be catchy, and we don't really know if this is all in his head or if it's actually reality. Because, like, same as One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he's insane. He's in a psych ward. He's making all this up. It could be the same thing. He's in normal life like we are, but in his head, he's in this whole different reality.
Potentially like schizophrenic.
Yes.
No touch with reality.
I sort of agree with that, and there is a passage to back that up on 308, where it talks about how the extra memory that can be implanted into you is of even better quality than the original memories. And it says there, more than the real thing, sir. Had you really gone to Mars as an interplant agent, you would have by now forgotten a great deal. Our analysis of true mem systems, authentic recollections of major events in a person's life, shows that a variety of details are quickly lost to the person. Part of the package we offer you is such deep implantation of recall that nothing is forgotten. And I think that sort of talks about how it's not really, there is no real distinction between reality and memory here. We can't be sure what is reality and what is memory, because when he goes on his mental implanted memory trip and they have these trinkets made up for him, souvenirs and that sort of thing, how are you to distinguish that from the real thing? There's no real way to tell what is reality and what is fake.
Okay, I think that can tie really well into the theme I created, which is kind of related, but rather than himself kind of not being in touch with reality, I took an approach for it where more like the government and like the media and stuff like that kind of create a different reality, and I think that he was kind of conflicting with what is reality and what is the reality created by society. And what I meant with that is to kind of support it is also on 308, as it said, more than the real thing, you will remember. I say you will never remember seeing me or coming here. You won't, in fact, ever even remember having heard of our existence. And that was the recall guy talking to the quail. And so we don't know for sure, like, if any of his memories were actually implanted or not. Like, we're not entirely sure, like, what memories are implanted, what aren't, because he should have no recollection of ever having them implanted to make them as genuine as possible.
He could have had this entire thing implanted.
It can be an argument, which is why, like, I think it, like, all of his stories seem to relate back to himself in some way, and I think he felt that nothing, or himself, he was not in touch with reality as he thought he should, and he thinks maybe that other big organizations and things are, the reason why he can't like truly see the world for what it is.
All right. Going off of TJ, I think that it is a definite possibility that Mars wasn't implanted and that it actually did happen. But however, if the aliens are more advanced, maybe they were capable of deleting his memory of them, and then the government tried to delete his memory of his trip to Mars, and then somewhere in there was a conflict which caused them to come back when he took the narcodrine.
So it could be very possible that the aliens came when he was actually a child, or it could also be possible that Interplan had already deleted his memory, and then, or before his memory was deleted, the aliens actually came, and kind of like if they're more advanced, or if they have the capability to, they might have even like swapped those memories, like potentially like messed up his entire timeline.
Yes, they did mention in the story that they can use one memory, like they can force one memory in to try and cancel out another one if they make it great enough, I guess, in a way.
And maybe the aliens have like a better way of, or a better grasp of how to do that easier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So what I thought is that I like both the other theories, but I think in the story, everything was supposed to be taken as literal as they put it. And I think for what they're saying is that it was a theme of the past. And what it shows is that anything from your past eventually will come back to haunt you, or even just resurface in the end, which you can see from the aliens and his trip from the Mars to Mars. And you can see that
Okay.
Do you want to just take a moment?
Take a moment, because I can edit anything out.
I'm not entirely sure how to back that. Do you have anything else to say?
Not really.
It's really hard when
We're
you're
at
like
15
saying
minutes
it.
though.
Yeah.
For just
but like
this.
that was a
But
bad.
there's
a
also
ton of
like
blank space.
6 minutes of this, or half of this is just like not there.
But we also have like 5 minutes on the other.
We have at least 10 minutes.
Okay.
I know that.
I
So
just
we
We've
are
clocked-
at
got
least-
over 10 minutes
I
easily.
clocked out for a little bit, working on something.
Okay. So she said, the past comes to haunt you.
Yes.
So, I don't know exactly.
No, what?
How can that?
What I thought is that I like both the other theories, but I think in the story, everything was supposed to be taken as literal as they put it. And I think for what they're saying is that it was a theme of the past. And what it shows is that anything from your past eventually will come back to haunt you, or even just resurface in the end, which you can see from the aliens and his trip from the Mars to Mars. And you can see that the whole point of the theme would be the past, and how he used that as where first he had the desire to go to Mars because that was his past trying to come back. So he wanted to figure out what he did. And you can see because his agency were saying if you made him back to normal in the end, he would just have the same desire. So what you don't know at the end either is that he could end up just getting the same desire, trying to figure out that truth again.
History is doomed to repeat itself.
Right? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
It can.
I'm trying to
What if
figure
it's
out
a
how to
loop?
back it up though.
What if it's a loop?
That's what
Like,
I was, and then it would
She's
constantly
talking.
keep
She's
going.
talking about like how memory and those memories come back.
What if it's a memory from another life? Like if he was to go into more of a spiritual direction, you pass away, you come back, the memories are still there, but you relive as someone else.
I mean, we've already
kind of like
determined that potentially the memories are not real.
potentially
Yeah.
this whole thing is not real.
Yeah. So I mean, what if the past comes back to get you? Like, what if they meant to do that? Like, what if this is like some kind of like sick
Punishment?
joke, Like maybe like the aliens are just like playing a sick joke on like, this kid, like this person, and like he's just never going to like fully understand
Potentially, it could be he was mean to the aliens when they first came. They destroyed the planet, and they took him and did this as punishment for being mean. And
You're saying he destroyed the planet?
no, the aliens destroyed the planet, and they took him hostage to punish him for being mean to the aliens.
What planet did they destroy?
Earth, because remember they came to Earth, and they decided to destroy the planet after guy dies.
Okay. I was so confused. I was like,
So-
Earth is destroyed, but
Or
okay,
maybe what you talking about, like the aliens? Like maybe.
you gotta keep in mind he's a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Why
but
would
no,
they target a
but
9-year-old?
They just
What
no,
what if they
bumped into the
rearrange? No, but
9-year-old.
we can say like we rearranged his timeline, like we said before, like his timeline could have just been rearranged.
That is true.
But what if his wife is like part of the punishment? Is like you're talking about like this is like some kind of punishment. Like he has like a terrible marriage, and like you can obviously see like he's like my wife left finally. You know, like he says that, and maybe like she leaves because he's finally maybe starting to understand like what might be going on, and then she's like, you know, homing in the mothership
So you're saying his wife is an alien?
potentially.
What if his wife was one of the agents, though? And then she was there to make sure he never wanted to go back to Mars.
It could be that too.
That would sort of fit with all the discouraging of does in the beginning.
Like yeah,
Where
like
she constantly talks about,
you're going hysterical over Mars. Like I'm going to leave you if you don't stop.
yeah,
I do believe that it's another, like, I agree with TJ's possibility of his wife being an alien, because in other PKDick short stories, he has this idea that aliens are trying to clone themselves as humans in human society, so.
I mean, I think that's a good enough discussion. I don't think we need like a formal ending, but this has gone on for long enough,
I know.
and I think
Yeah,
Kat
we're
has
at
the
20
capa-
minutes.
I think Kat has the capability to like put this together in a coherent manner.
Yeah, but
As long
yeah,
as
let's
the
not
ending-
make it.
Alrighty.